I think I need the link again, unfortunately. I keep looking through emails and they all.
And there we go. Okay, I believe we're set.
Thanks for the tech support. You're awesome.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Leah Kuypers. I'm the creator and author of The Zones of Regulation. And I have two of my amazing colleagues and team members and just favorite people out there in the world here with me. I'm going to introduce to you Elizabeth Sautter. She is a speech and language pathologist and co-author of Zones of Regulations game, Navigating the Zones, and the Advanced Pack, as well as one of my collaborative speakers. So I'll give her a second to tell a little bit more about herself.
Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. I can't believe we made it through this week. Definitely yellow and red zone feelings for me and my family. As Leah mentioned, I'm a collaborative Zones of Regulation presenter, and I collaborate with her on some of the resources that she provides for the zones. I'm a speech and language pathologist who is passionate about social emotional learning. I'm also the founder and one of the directors and owners of Communication Works. We're a small group of speech therapists in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I have, many of you might have seen the Whole Body Listening Larry series. I'm the co-author of these books. And I'm spending a lot of time lately on my passion project of Make Social Learning Stick. And I'll be sharing a little bit more about the resources that we provided this week through that. Thank you for having me, Leah.
Yeah, and I'm going to turn it over to Emily Walz now. She is on board with me, part of my Zones of Regulation team. And Emily comes to the team with so much knowledge and experience. So I'll turn it over to her to share a little bit of that with you.
Thank you. And before I introduce myself, Leah, you're still sharing your screen on.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. How about we do, you go talk, I will problem solve.
Absolutely. Okay, so my name is Emily Walz. I work with Leah at the Zones of Regulation, and I'm also a special education teacher. I've been teaching special education for 15 years. And I am now trying to make my distance learning plan. I'm in the same boat as a lot of you, and working with the zones, and I have my kids at home. So if you hear some commotion in the background, that is my kids trying to make lunch. One of my passions is in social emotional learning is around school-wide zones. And so Leah and I and Elizabeth have been working really hard on building some of our capacity to support practitioners, families, and students with zones at school. Yeah. So we're so happy that you're here joining us, or if you're watching this recorded, we're happy that you have had a minute in your day to be able to do this with us.
Yeah, and just know that we are working behind the scenes to continue to think about ways we can continue to support you going forward as the landscape of education is changing, the landscape of living is changing. No, we are also pivoting to try to reformulate the ways we can support you to make sure that we all continue this journey on building regulation skills and social emotional learning in a new format that will meet your needs. So that is certainly one of the forefront thoughts on all of our mind.
Absolutely. Before we just kind of dive into some of the questions and answers that we've been receiving, we wanted to take a mindful moment, and Elizabeth is going to lead us in a mindfulness, a quick mindfulness exercise, just to get us grounded where we are and to start our work.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. I just wanted to share one of my favorite breathing tools. I'm a big fan of mindfulness and getting grounded. And so I actually just planted my feet, both of my feet on the ground, and I'm noticing my body on my chair and the anchor of my breath. And a nice way to do that with your children and doing it with them. We do this a lot of the times before we start an IEP meeting, or even just to get my children settled at the dinner table, is to do a breathing activity called Take 5, which is basically you can put up your hand like this. You want to do it with me, and you just put each finger up one at a time and breathe in and breathe out. Let's do this a couple times. You can't see it, but I'm putting my hand on my belly too, so I can really get grounded and feel my breath go in and out. There's 1, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in and out. It's also called starfish breathing. And you can use both hands, especially if you have a child who likes a tactile input, and you can go up for a breath and then out for an exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale and exhale. And the last one, inhale and exhale. We really recommend that everybody have at least one breathing tool in their toolbox for calming. Hope that helps.
Okay. We wanted to move on and just model for you and for ourselves, really, to practice how to do a check-in when we are talking to each other in a distance online like this. So Leah has made us a poll if you're joining us through Zoom, and we would love if you could answer the poll. It says, how are you feeling and what zone are you in? And while you are taking a moment to check in, we are also going to take our moment to check in. And I like Elizabeth's words, prime ourselves with positivity about a positive moment that's happening this week. Do you want to go first, Leah?
Sure. So I find one of the ways we can support our mental health at home, our students as well as our children as well as ourselves, is to keep looking for the silver linings. And it's easy to get caught up in our minds right now and the worry, the uncertainty. So one of the tools I've been using and also modeling to my family is looking for the silver linings. What are the positives? One thing I've noticed is everyone in my neighborhood is rediscovering nature and getting outside. I see families connecting, walking down the street, playing ball in the park that I can see out my window. I see kids on their bikes, and it doesn't matter what the weather is. They're outside right now. So that is something that I see as a positivity that I've been talking to my family about.
So I have, what zone am I in right now? I'm in the yellow zone. I'm excited to be sharing with everybody, and I'm also a little nervous about the online aspect of all of this, but it's exciting. Throughout the week, I've been fluctuating between the yellow and the red zone. It's been a lot to take in, and but the silver linings for me have been actually connecting with my two boys. I have two teenagers, actually. My tween just turned teen, 13 and 16-year-old. So we've been doing a lot of indoor activities together. So that's been nice. And also I've been purging my office, which feels really good. So I think probably a lot of people are cleaning drawers and organizing things, which calms me down and makes me feel good. So that's my silver lining.
And the polls should be open now to view and vote. If you tried earlier, it may not have worked.
Yeah, I see the poll at the bottom of the screen. So if you're looking, go ahead and check at if you're on Zoom, check at the bottom of the screen and you'll see the poll across there.
Some green zones, great. I see a yellow zone.
Yep. And I also opened up the chat.
Casey's in the green zone. Heather Heather can't see it.
If you scroll on the toolbar on your Zoom, if you're tuning in on Zoom, now if you're on Facebook, you don't have a vote. I apologize for that. But you certainly can type it into your feed and let us know.
Wow, thanks, quite a few. Green zones, I'm impressed. Blue and yellow from Kathy.
Mhm.
It doesn't appear that our poll is being accessed by everyone, but we're gonna roll with it.
Yeah, we can see your result. We can see you in the chat. So if you want to add and check in your zone on the chat, you can too. I'm going to do a quick check-in. I'm in the yellow zone. I'm excited and nervous. This is my first live online anything. But my silver lining of the week is that I've connected with a lot of friends via technology, and I've been in the same space as friends who are living far away. We've kind of connected ourselves together in new ways, and it's been really the thing that is helping. It's such a good coping tool for me right now. So I'm sure a lot of you are doing the same, and that is, thank goodness that we have the ability to connect this way. We're happy that you're here doing this with us too.
Yeah.
And one of the tools that Leah has in the curriculum is doing check-ins, and that's what her visual is here on the screen. And it really is something that even just naming how you're feeling and being able to communicate about it can help calm us down and regulate us. I'm going to jump into talking about a couple of tools to get started on regulation, but I also wanted to mention here, because along with the zones of regulation check-in that many of you probably already know and your children are using at school and hopefully you're using at home, I had a really fun time this week creating some videos with a colleague of mine, Rebecca Brandstetter. She and I are working on an online parenting program called Make It Stick Parenting, and we got together on Monday and put together a few videos that are information from our online course, and then a bunch of downloadables that we just wanted to give everybody for free while they're managing this new endeavor of supporting our children at home. So speaking of check-ins, the second video is all about checking in with your child, maybe first thing in the morning, throughout the day, and then doing a debrief at home. So I have a whole PDF that's online for free that you can use as a check-in and reference for this, along with your zone lesson on checking in and using the zone throughout this too. And we talk about starting the day with positivity and then doing an end of the day debrief with your child to get them involved and talk to them about what went well and maybe any problem solving for the next day. And then Leah has up here the visuals as another regulation tool, is being able to keep our children on some sort of schedule and routine. Predictability is very important for our children, especially those with special needs, knowing what's expected, having some control over their environment. Obviously, putting some choices in there and involving them in the process of creating the schedule is very important. But these are online on makeitstick.com. There's a blog with all the 3 videos and the PDF downloadables. So we developed this for you, some that are a little bit more structured and some that have more involved if your child really likes segmenting the day, similar to what they would be doing at school, or we have some blank ones too if you want to keep it a little bit more open. Again, involving your children in developing this with you, either for the week or in the morning for each day, can really help them prime their brain for what's coming and help them be able to know what's going to be predictable throughout the day. So that's one tool that we wanted to share with you. And then the other one that I wanted to mention before we get into some specific regulation tools is just being able to make sure that your child has their foundational needs met. I know my two boys were really wanting to pretend like it was the weekend when Monday came around and stay up late, watch movies, and be on screen. I actually just posted our new screen time agreement because that's been a big challenge at my home, because we're not going to be, at our home at least, our philosophy is that we're going to be keeping the screen to a minimum and trying to get outside and do some mindfulness and their schoolwork and help out with the chores around the house. So we had to get a schedule in place for bedtime, which is similar to what we'd be doing if school was in place. So making sure they're getting enough sleep. It's actually great because they can sleep in a little bit more. And we know the teenage brain, or all of our kids' brain, needs more sleep than maybe they might get if they're waking up early in the morning. So just making sure you're keeping on a routine for sleep, keeping that circadian rhythm going so that they know what time it is in their brain.
And I want to make sure too, people are understanding your children are teens.
Yes.
And this is still important for those teenagers. My kids are elementary age, and Emily's kids are preschool and early elementary. So we really kind of span the developmental ages here with our parenting.
Mm-hmm.
And making note that it's not just the younger kids that need the schedules and the routines. Elizabeth is parenting teenagers, and still how important and beneficial that is for their well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. So the sleep is something that we're really trying to stay consistent with during the week and on the weekends. Food and nutrition. Not everybody has access to healthy food and nutrition right now. I know there's a feeling of scarcity. So do the best that you can. I'm just trying to make sure that my children are fed and having regular meals and a healthy breakfast and snacks. My younger son is trying to prepare some meals for us. He's the chef in the house, and trying to get my older son involved as well. And he's baking bread. He really likes that, the carbs. So we're trying to sprinkle in some vegetables and fruits as well. So thinking about that for brain engagement. And drinking water is so important. So just, I'm forgetting and I'm feeling it as I go throughout the day that I'm like, whoops, I'm not drinking enough water. So we all can think about hydration, and then the exercise piece too. So we've been trying to get out. We have a trampoline, they play basketball, or you can do things online like Go Noodle or Family Wii Bowling, whatever it might be, but just trying to get that movement, some sensory breaks, call it recess, call it whatever you want, but try to sprinkle that in. We call these proactive green zone tools so that you can have those foundational needs. And scheduling and predictability are also part of that green zone, priming the brain for structure and comfort in regulating our days as we're in uncharted territory. Did you want to share some tools as well, Leah? I know you had some great visuals of things that are going on.
Yeah, so the question we continue to be asked by so many of you is, how do we deliver this information that students have been receiving support around throughout the school year? Now, with the sudden shift in our delivery model, how can we support our learners in the home? How can we support caregivers in carrying it over? What does this look like? And one of the questions I often get is, what can I share? What can't I share? And my publisher, socialthinking.com, we are working with them and trying to figure out what sharing looks like. So at this point, they are asking you continue to follow their copyright and trademark policies that you can find posted on Zones of Regulation and socialthinking.com. With that said, I recognize that we need to be adaptable and know that we're working to try and look at ways that we can continue to support our learners while still respecting those rights. So we're going to give you some ideas of things that we've been thinking of that you can be pushing into the homes, helping families carry over zones of regulation and social emotional learning skills that you've been focusing on throughout the year. And really to kind of recircle back around here, but excuse me, come back to what we were talking about with the check-in. You could be supporting families, the students, maybe their assignment is they create a zones visual for their home. They don't have to have the pictures. They could look through magazines. They could look through the newspaper, maybe print images off the internet. They can be putting together their own zones visual for their home and be thinking about a common place where they could hang this. Maybe it's somewhere near the kitchen or maybe on a hallway door. But if we're more frequently seeing it, we're going to be more frequently thinking about it. So this is one that a family put together. And if you see in the background here, they taped it to magnetiles magnetic whiteboard. And these are magnetiles, and that says mom in the middle of it. And over here, this says dad. And so it's not just the student checking in, it's the whole family, and we're creating the climate in the home. We all have feelings, all the zones are okay, and we're also, by doing this check-in, helping the students better construct understanding of what these feelings are, because when dad checks in worried in the yellow zone, we can see the situation unfolding around dad. We can see the facial expressions, the body language that comes with worried. And so we're building this capacity for then our learner to better be able to understand and identify what these feelings are, as well as set the tone that, hey, it's okay to be worried in the yellow zone. It's okay to be sad in the blue zone, or, you know, sometimes mom's panicking in the red zone, and all these zones are okay. So here's one example that we have. I just gotta, let's see, there we go. Nope, not what I want to do. Hold on. Okay. Here's another visual of family members with their names on it. If you sent this to me, thank you. I didn't create
one
this.
of my clients, Leah.
Thank you.
This is one of my amazing moms that I work with. She developed this, and it's all of the different, their initials of the child's first name, and they put their beads and they go on the strings. And actually, we also made it to go like this so that you can see the levels of alertness as they're maybe accelerating into different levels of energy on their zones.
So this can look a lot of ways for families. Maybe you have just white string and you color the background of it so that where the bead falls is over the blue shaded section, the green, the yellow, or the red. So that's tip one. Have your kids set up their visuals for the home and use the resources that they have around their home with maybe just magazines or even old books that maybe they're grown out of, and there's use characters that they clip out from that.
Leah, do you mind if I share about the online check-in?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay, another tool that I've been thinking about as a special education teacher who's trying to set up distance learning is how I can check in with my students online. And a lot of us are setting up Google Classrooms, using Google Forms, things like that. And so I made a prototype of a zones check-in that I want to try with my students, and I'm going to share it with you. I'm going to share the link here in the chat, and I'll share it with you too on Facebook Live. You can try out the form for yourself. You can't copy the same form that I have, because there's copyrighted images on there, but you can feel free to create your own and use this as sort of a base. I'm putting a link right here in the chat for you to try out after we're done talking here. But it basically asks you to visually choose what zone you're in, use an emotion word, and then think about what is one tool or strategy that you can use to help manage your zone today, which is a great way for us to just check in as practitioners who are trying our best to connect with our learners long distance. I'm going to post
so this
that right
form
now.
that Emily just shared, the answers would go to her, so you don't want to be using this form and sharing that with your students, because Emily's the one who has access to their answers.
But feel free to check in with me. I'll look and see how everybody's feeling.
We will co-regulate with you all. So,
yeah, exactly. Co-regulate online.
And what we'll do too is, once this is done, we're recording this. We will post this on zonesofregulation.com as well as makesociallearningstick.com. And then we will put a document with it that has all the links to the resources we're talking about, so that you can have all those connections. And so we will be working behind the scenes in the next few days to deliver that information to you. So another activity that I thought of something you can do at home is we can be making our own triggers. We talk about in lesson 9 of the Zones of Regulation curriculum that we have triggers. We have events that happen that move us out of the green zone and into the blue, the yellow, or the red. And these triggers, they can be positive, like, oh my gosh, right now my kids just discovered what is it called? It's Messenger Kids Messenger through Facebook, and they are seeing their friends for the first time in a week, and they are over the moon about that. And it is just yellow zone excitement around our house, and that just makes me excited in the yellow zone to see them smiling so much and laughing with their friends. So it can be positive triggers. It can be things that are evoking more uncomfortable feelings for you. But what we can have kids do, draw a diamond. I do know my basic shapes. Draw a diamond and, write caution triggers in the middle. I know many of you have access to the curriculum itself. If you have a secure way to share the handout, it's one of the reproducibles in the book. You can pass that along to your students, your families that you're working with. We just cannot, my publisher's guidelines are it needs to be shared on a secure domain. So email or secure internal websites, but it can be openly posted on websites that the public has access to. So if that's a possibility, we can email it or securely post it, or we can have kids draw this ourselves. And then what we're doing is thinking about, what are my personal triggers? And if the whole family does this, we can be co-regulating around each other. My kids know that one of their dad's triggers is not wiping up water spilled on the floor. And they know if they spill water from the refrigerator or the bathtub that they need to get a towel and clean it up. And this helps our whole family work together more efficiently when we're aware of those triggers and having that perspective of what each other gets maybe frustrated, annoyed, excited over, and it just really helps us work more fluidly together in harmony. So that's maybe something the whole family makes their triggers, each person, and then I'll post them on our bedroom door and just kind of have fun with it. So,
I was just going to say, Leah, that when I first was introduced to the zones of regulation, Leah and I actually worked together at a clinic that I owned in Oakland a long time ago when she was writing and publishing this. And so we all at Communication Works made our trigger signal, filled it out and put it by our desks and doors. And it was just so insightful to know what's going on internally for each person. And I didn't even realize how many triggers I had, especially around technology. But now we're all sharing space at home, and I've never actually done this with my boys and my husband. And so it's nice to have it overt and visual and have us be aware of the things that make us feel a little bit heightened or maybe even bring us down, and so that we can help with that co-regulation and also that proactive problem solving and forward thinking mindset, so that we can prepare for these times and then have tools at the ready.
yeah, absolutely. So, another idea we have for you is support families creating their toolbox. What are some common tools that everyone can access in the home? We talk a lot about our individual toolbox, and I really encourage you to be helping students think about what their tools look like at home. What do they have access to? Our toolbox for home likely looks different than our toolbox that we had at school. So we can be supporting kids in exploring what some new blue zone tools, green zone tools, yellow and red zone tools are that they can be using to help them manage each of their zones. And we can also be working collectively as a family to be thinking about what's our family toolbox. So this is the Kuypers family toolbox. And my son helped me with the writing on this. Neither one of us are known for our great penmanship, but this is Reproducible Z from the Zones of Regulation curriculum. And we have, for some of our blue zone tools, reading, 54321 is one of the tools that you'll see in a couple of, all of the zones. I say when you, if you have joined me for one of my webinars on trainings on the zones of regulation, I share my son's favorite tool, and I'm not joking. So I'll lead you all through that right now, because this is an easy tool too to teach students remotely, help families carry over. You need nothing except for your hand, or you technically don't even need your hand, but I want to give credit. This is a tool that I learned from Hey Sigmund, like Sigmund Freud.com. It's an Australian website that has a lot of great mental health resources on it. So I call it my son and I call it 54321. She doesn't give it a name in the video where she talks about it. So again, if you want to lead your learners in a tool, have them just take a second and, like Elizabeth said, ground themselves, put your feet on the ground and just take a pause. Let's scan our body and notice how we're feeling. Think about the signals that are letting us know what we're feeling. And we're gonna do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we start by thinking about 5 things we can see in the environment around us. And take a moment when you look at those and notice a detail about what you're seeing. Okay, now we're going to do 4 things we can touch in the environment around us. And I have them really physically touch it and notice again the details, the properties. Okay, now we're going to listen for 3 things around us. And now try to taste or smell 2 things. And then we're going to end with 1 deep breath.
Leah, can I chime in real quick?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, this is an amazing tool. It's basically mindfulness. Mindfulness isn't always about sitting in a lotus cross-legged for 20 minutes and focusing on nothing but breathing. There's a lot of things that you can do, mindful eating, mindful listening, all the things that Leah mentioned about the 5 senses. That's all mindfulness. And this really, mindfulness is known to boost immunity and calm the brain when we're in a fight, flight, or freeze. And this is a great green zone tool to practice while you're calm, because then we can build those pathways in our brain to retrieve when we're not calm. And I did want to say that there, within the resources that Rebecca Brandsetter and I developed on makesociallearningstick.com is a mindfulness resource list for your children. But I also want, so you can download this, and there's a lot of different apps that you can do. My son and I he's picked the Calm app. A lot of these people are, companies are offering them for free right now. So if you want to do guided meditations or listening to things, if you have a phone accessible or computer, you can do them online. I also want to mention that mindfulness and calming starts with us. And that's hard because we're all managing probably a lot of different zones and emotions throughout our day right now. And so letting our children know that we're working on it ourselves, they can see us doing it on our own, or maybe we can do it with them. And again, in those downloadables, there are some ideas for you as a parent as well, and resources for you to look at to practice your own regulation throughout the day, because we're all going to be needing it as we're spending time together so closely. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to share that about the fact that that is mindfulness, that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I also just wanted to say too that I love that your son has put jokes in there, telling jokes, because that's the #1 go-to strategy for my boys and my husband is so good at sprinkling the humor in throughout the day. Even through our deep conversations at dinner, there's a lot of memes that are going around online, and humorous things, and just telling jokes and practicing gratitude can really help with bringing positivity and jolting the brain to lighten it up a little bit.
Yeah, and connecting with family, friends too, is when we're feeling down, reach out to someone. Is a great Blue Zone tool. One of the green zone tools that I want to highlight too, we talked about following schedule, but we talked about getting outside, but limiting media has been important for my husband and I as the adults. It's also been important for our kids. It's something that we see when we have smaller chunks of time of it. We all are able to come off it in a better mindset than when we have large quantities of it. It seems more dysregulating for us. So having smaller engagements with it seem to help keep us all feeling better than kind of binging in it. And for me, how much news I'm consuming keeps my anxiety down, certainly. And in Yellow Zone, I just wanted to say too, there are so many exercise studios that are doing free exercise workouts that are great too, just fun to do together as a family to kind of get those wiggles out, get that anxiety and stress out for us adults, and that connection too together of, doing, I know one Peloton, the Peloton bike has free 3 months app subscription for free right now. Orange Theory is pushing out free videos right now. There's lots of yoga. A lot of local places around me are streaming live classes for people. So check out those resources and make it just a fun family activity too.
I think bringing it back to those of you who are practitioners, bringing it back to how we can be, do our teletherapy or our distance learning, thinking about how we can lead our students through some of these mindfulness practices, how we can provide them resources to do things like moving their body and finding things that are age appropriate and mobility appropriate for them. Is really important, and that our push to maybe be more academic in nature with what we're doing via distance learning I think providing social emotional learning opportunities for our students during this really stressful and confusing time is just so equally valid, and spending the time doing that with them and making our distance learning opportunities count through using mindfulness, through helping them to develop coping tools for their home with their families, and helping lead the families to bridge what we've been working on at school in terms of our regulation strategies with using them at home is going to be very important.
Absolutely. And what was that, Emily?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to emphasize, I wholeheartedly agree with, emotional regulation being number one and on the forefront as we're together during this time. I also wanted to say that taking this time, we don't have to, be keeping the same exact schedule as they would at school. We can change it up and do a lot of learning can be done through play and practicing social emotional learning through games and fun activities, and getting outside and doing gardening and cooking. I forgot to mention this, and explain what my book is, Make Social Learning Stick. That's what it is actually. It's all different activities throughout the day, home, community, holidays, and special events. This is at the table of things that you can do to be practicing social emotional learning, executive functioning, and having fun with your children and making it teachable throughout the day. So thinking about those art activities, thinking about cooking activities, anything else that you guys want to share that you might be doing with your younger children. We're doing a lot of cooking and developing fun games. There's a lot of things going on about funny activities around toilet paper and exercises you can do with like bowling with toilet paper and silly things like that. But just making it fun and making it natural within the home environment.
One of the things my kids, as well as my community, is really getting into that's been really cool is we have all come up with a name for our homeschool. So Kuypers Academy opened on Monday, and we have Craig the crayfish as our school mascot because we had a rushed adoption from the 3rd grade science unit to bring home crayfish. So Craig joined our family this week as well. And on our door, we have our school mascot as well as all the other kids on our block. And it's growing in our school boundary as well, too, as we're connecting each other. And so when the kids go out for walks and bike rides, they can see the other schools around them and just have that kind of understanding they're not the only ones who are having to make these sacrifices and dealing with these big changes. And so it's been something fun too for them to be looking for, picking up. I even saw a little girl, kindergartner down our block. She is the Terrific Tigers, and she dressed up in a tiger costume and marched up and down our block yesterday in her tiger mascot. So that's been something that's just been kind of uplifting for my kids and connecting. And now we have a name. It's for part of our routine too. It's like, no, Kuypers Academy is in session right now. And it gives, again, just a little more formality to help them shift gears until we're in learning mode during this segment of the day. So
I like
Love
that.
that. I have to say, Rebecca was telling me the other day that her two daughters are very into Harry Potter. So the whole theme of the morning meeting, they're wizards, and following your child's interests and their lead on things, and they take turns about who's being the teacher, can also be really fun, and getting them engaged as well. I forgot to mention, I'm so grateful for AAPC, my publisher, because when this all came about, I asked them if I could discount my book to only the cost of printing. So right now, my book is on AAPC. Make Social Learning Stick is just the cost of printing right now. So thank you to them.
yeah, really applaud their
Mhm.
understanding and efforts during this time.
Yeah.
One of our red zone tools was take a break in our room. And, we're sharing confined space right now within homes and those family members there. So what we can be doing is helping our students think about what does that space look like for them that they have. This is something they can set up, grab some pillows, maybe some blankets, things they find around the house, and create a little comfort corner or a regulation station. So here's just an example of one that I put together in my son's classroom, but an idea of some things you might be able to find. It's a dog bed on the bottom, and I don't know how the dog's going to feel about stealing the bed, but maybe you share it because petting our animals might be another tool anyway. But I've created these even in closets, in bedrooms for kids. There's a little space on the floor. Even under a bed might be a space where they can put a little flashlight and some books and a blanket to lay on, a pillow to prop themselves up on, and it's just their little space that they can get away from the stimuli of what's going on in other parts of the house. They have then that decreased sensory load. It allows their nervous system to reset, and then also helping establish with the caregivers, what are some of the rules around this. This isn't a punitive place. This isn't where we're going to process with the kids right away. This is used as a tool to help us in managing our zones. And I'm talking about this, I started with this conversation around the red zone, but this might be a tool for all of our zones. Some of our kids just need a little downtime during the day, a chance to reset, not because they're about to explode or they're, welling up with tears, but because it is a green zone tool that's going to just give them that opportunity to keep their best foot forward as they move on in their day. So maybe you're helping kids think about what this space looks like, maybe what can they look for in their home and bring together to create some area that they have to be able to manage their emotions and have that opportunity.
I was going to say, Leah, this is another opportunity to get your children involved. If you have children who like to plan and maybe draw, maybe you have some developing designers, this can be an actual lesson where they think about what they want it to look like, picture that in their mind, draw it out. You can help find things around the house that might be great for their calming regulation station, and have them be involved in putting this together and planning it and visualizing it before it actually comes to fruition. And sometimes it can be a shared space with siblings, but also too, some siblings might like their own area to nestle in by themselves. And again, like Leah mentioned, this can be something that they do throughout the day. Maybe it's part of the schedule. so they can have that downtime to just reset and relax. It doesn't have to be when they're needing a break necessarily. It can be either one.
Mm-hmm. Before we move, I think we should mention one more tool, and then we should open it up for questions in our chats. But the last thing, like putting the teacher hat back on, the last thing I wanted to mention as a resource that we have available is our Zones Book Nook, which is a list of almost 50 children's books that you as a teacher or as a caregiver can read aloud with your children. And what you'll see is every book on there has a link to how you can use it in talking about the zones regulation framework and what skills and strategies it reinforces. So one thing that I'm going to try when I'm teaching my distance learning social skills is to do a read aloud with stop and thinks along the way, and maybe an answer prompt that students can answer in terms of thinking about regulation, thinking about the characters and how it relates to their own life. So this is a great, it's just a free tool on our website that we've been working on that you can access as teachers, practitioners, and as caregivers. I am actually going to mute my audio real quick because one of my kids is having a meltdown in the background. Give me a minute. My husband's here.
We all understand, right? We're all with you. So if you have some more questions for us, we would love for you to type them in. If you're watching via Zoom, you can use the Q&A feature on the toolbar, or we're also able to see the chat.
Yeah, can I mention some of the resources that we put together last night that from some of the questions that came in earlier?
Yeah.
And we'll put this, Emily, just going to say thumbs up if this is going to go on with the recording after. We'll put the links to this later. There's just a little bit of, there's a social story by the autism educator that's amazing that you can share and read with your children. There's some information about how to talk to your children about COVID-19, a parent resource by the National Association for School Psychologists. There's a PBS, talk to your kids about the coronavirus. One of my good friends in my local neighborhood is Leslie O'Brien. She put on a cute little bob wig and a pink outfit, and she was teaching kids how to wash their hands using cinnamon to show how hard, like, the germs would look like, and how you sing Twinkle Twinkle. And she's an amazing singer, so she has that video. We'll put that on there on YouTube. And there's a couple of other resources that we will share with you as well as sharing this recording. Is there something else that we put on there, Emily, that I left out? I'll also put the link to all the videos and PDFs that I mentioned that Rebecca and I made.
Yeah, and following Zones of Regulation on Facebook and Make Social Learning Stick on Elizabeth's Facebook page is also a nice resource where we continue to deliver useful resources, things we find that we feel would be of value to our communities. We're passing along. So that's one avenue to access a lot of this right now is through those Facebook links and pages.
I'll put the link to AAPC as well. I just saw somebody say they bought Make Social Learning Stick. So I hope it's helpful. And I'm developing new resources, so stay tuned for that. But I will put the link for that as well while my publisher has.
Yeah, so and another thing too that we're running right now, the Zones of Regulation apps are discounted between 60 and 66% off through Wednesday. And so we're trying to make those as accessible as possible for families to get their hands on to, again, continue the learning. It's a nice tool for parents to become more familiar with the zones. They can do it in conjunction with the learner, and from there, working to support the learner through the content. It's then also something that the kids have access to, that they can be engaging in the zones framework, continuing to reflect on pieces of the curriculum and extend that learning through that app interface. So those, Emily just posted the link to find out more about those on our website, and then you would access those apps through your preferred app store, whatever you're using to find and download apps is where they'll be on. So
there's a question here, Leah, that says, can the apps be used for schools?
Absolutely. And schools often can get bulk purchases through if they're using an Apple interface, there's a whole school app purchase program. This is not my expertise, but if you email us at info@zonesofregulation.com, we're going to get you in touch with the developer who can guide you through what that school purchase process looks like.
This is a great time for you guys to type in questions for us. We would love to answer questions that you have around supporting families, supporting your own children, and what we can do to kind of help you with the resources you need. So you can type it in on the Facebook Live or in the chat feature or the question and answer feature here on Zoom.
And just another feature too, if you click on the chat, I believe you can save the chat. It says there's like 3 little buttons that where it's asking you to type your message. If you click on that, it'll say save chat. And so you can have a link to these resources and access that chat even after we close down our meeting today. So we will save that chat too, and maybe try to post it in the document that we put together when we send this out. So those of you viewing this on the recorded end of it can see the discussion we've been having here.
I saw earlier that somebody asked a question about where there's free resources online for yoga, and then I saw somebody else answer in the chat that there's a lot of free resources on YouTube. Do you know any more, Leah, of yoga?
Yesterday, my kids and I joined the 1,000 Petals team. They do 4 p.m. Central Time free streaming of yoga daily now.
Awesome.
So we did some breathing and mindfulness and some yoga poses, and it was just a nice little mental and physical break in the middle of our afternoon. So I shared that. 1,000 Petals is on Facebook. They have a website, 1000petals.com. So hopefully you can connect through them.
Go Noodles, another one.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We got a question from Kelsey Hayes. She says, as a school psychologist in a larger district, we've been asked to provide social emotional resources and most likely eventually social emotional lessons virtually through Canvas. Do you know if there are examples of what this has looked like if it's been done before? Kelsey, I am not aware of what others have done. I know you are not alone in trying to figure this out right now, and it is something that we too are working to try to help support you with as this is continuing to evolve and shift. So I'm not familiar with the Canvas platform, but if you stay tuned, we're going to keep on our end working to try to figure out how to help you guys deliver materials. So
And yeah, Leah, I'm going to chime in. I don't have the answer at all, but I support at Communication Works 50 plus speech pathologists out in the schools trying to do teletherapy, distant learning, and they're all asking me. I have a lot of the traditional speech and language, artic and receptive expressive language, all of that, but they're looking for the social emotional piece. And I'm trying to adapt some of the activities in my book and find ways to help them help the parents be able to sprinkle this into their daily life. And so I'm just trying to figure out the best way to disseminate that information, whether it's over YouTube or, you know, little modules here and there. Our parenting course isn't available quite yet. We're getting to that. But if you email me as well and email Leah, we will collaboratively try to figure out how we can support you as educators, teachers, therapists to help the parents and families that you're working with. And parents, we're also trying to figure out the best way to support you at home, because this is a lot, we realize. If you have any suggestions of what would be helpful, please just communicate with us and let us know how we can do that, because we have a lot of ideas and want to make sure that we make it functional.
Absolutely. And I saw another question just clarifying. We do not have your emails, so no, we will not be emailing your the document collection post production of this live stream. So that will be posted on our website. So you're going to need to circle back around to look for that. We will let you know on social media when that's launched. So if you're following us on social media, we'll make sure to be posting that this video is now available, as well as the supporting documents that come with it. So Leah.
I will say though, don't forget, Leah, that if people do want to stay connected directly, to go to zonesofregulation.com and register. Leah did send out a newsletter with some really great resources, and that's a nice way to stay connected. And then I have been blogging and sharing information from my blog, so you can come to Make Social Learning Stick and opt in to be connected via email, so we can have that direct communication. Otherwise, social media is the way to get.
Yeah, which just follows up with the last question in the chat too, is how we're going to continue to, how should you continue to access these resources we're working on? Follow us in social media. You can sign up for our newsletters on our websites as well. And so as things are coming together on our end, we're going to be letting you know through those outlets.
There's also, there's a Facebook group called Zones of Regulation in Action, and it's a group that you can join, which is just full of practitioners who are using zones of regulation. And it's, you know, if you have a question, it will be answered. There are almost 25,000 members in this group all over the world. And so it's a great way to connect with other practitioners who are maybe using the same technology that you're using, or working with the same type of community that you're working with. And there are tons of videos, and you know, it's a great place to ask and answer questions and to share ideas as well. So I encourage you to join that group. Again, it's called Zones of Regulation in Action, and it's a really supportive, positive group. So check it out. It's worth it for sure.
Yeah. Well, we are to the end of our hour and a little over. So just some closing remarks. Our gratitude for you. Thank you for your commitment to our youth, our learners that we're out there supporting, and just that dedication to help continue these efforts in this really dynamic, changing world that we're all going through. And I just really applaud you and want to wish you the best in health, and that we're going to stick together during this time and keep helping each other out.
And thank you for acknowledging how important social emotional learning is, and support throughout this time. And Grateful for Leah and Emily to bring us together in community, because that feels really wonderful right now. And I'm grateful for the two of you and all the zones of regulation and Make Social Learning Stick community, and supporting each other in this as adults, as educators, as parents, caregivers, and supporting our children through this, because I've always felt like this is the most important thing. And now more than ever, we really need to focus on emotional regulation and togetherness.
Yeah, and I wanted to say I am going to try my best to practice what I preach going into this weekend, and to really take the time that I need to center myself and my family. And I hope that you are all feeling, even though our inboxes are full and our text messages just keep coming in and the demands seem so great, I hope that you are able to take a moment and to focus on gratitude. And I'm going to work really hard to do that, and give myself some time and space.
And I think, just to close, give yourself grace, give our kids grace, give those caregivers you're supporting grace. I mean, we all are doing the best we can given the circumstances around us. And, you know, it is what it is. So, you know, we do what we can, but also know that there's a lot of room for grace in this time of our lives too. So,
Thanks for joining.
Peace to all of you. Thank you. And as we said, best in health during these times. So take care.
Thank you.